Okay, I just finished drawing the palisade. I've drawn the cistern and the donjon, and just to finish, the machicolations, the crenels and the merlons. There, preserved for all time. What a beautiful building. This week on Click, preserving the past with the latest 3D tech. We're in Italy to scan this famous landmark before it reaches its tipping point. We'll also show you how to 3D scan your own place and your own face using bulk standard kit. If you've never heard of Los Santos, allow us to take you on a tour and tear the place up a bit as we explore the world of Grand Theft Auto 5. All that plus the latest tech news and a very cool way to do business digitally in Webscape. Welcome to Click, I'm Spencer Kelly, and welcome to Scion House just outside London. It's lovely, isn't it? But sadly, not all of our historic buildings are as well preserved. In fact, many are crumbling to dust around the world before conservators can even make a record of them with photos and drawings. But there is now a new device which allows experts to make a 3D laser scan of a building in the time it takes to walk around it. Neil Bowdler reports.
Summer in Pisa and everyone wants to see the Leaning Tower and of course offer it a little bit of support. The famous bell tower doesn't lean as much as it once did thanks to substantial engineering works. It may be good for another 200 years, but that doesn't mean the conservation work stops. The new tool in the conservators' arsenal is 3D scanning, which can precisely map every stone of a building and provide the ultimate reference manual for future repair works. Rescan periodically, and any minute movement in the building's stones should be spotted. But what wasn't possible to scan until now was the interior of the tower because of its tight, spiralling stairways.
So we've climbed almost 300 steps to get up here to the top of the Tower of Pisa, and this is the device that they're using to scan the inside of the tower. It's called Zebedee, after the famous children's TV character, because like Zebedee, it's got a bit of a spring in its action.
This prototype device is designed by Australia's National Science Agency. It oscillates from side to side around once a second, sweeping the walls, floor and ceiling with its laser. It uses the physical landscape around it as its reference point to build a 3D visualization in record speed, however tight the space may be.
Other systems, you have to set up tripods, they take a lot longer to scan, you have to move your tripod from place to place, and it really just takes a lot longer. With this system, we can walk around and we can map the world in the time it takes us to walk around.
3D scanning isn't just for the conservationists. We can experience the Tower of Pisa in all its full 3D glory in this virtual reality cave, which enables me to skirt around the tower, even to fly through it.
The cave belongs to a local university which is collaborating on the project. They hope the data could be used to create interactive experiences for visitors to Pisa.
With a 3D model, actually you can fly, you can go virtually anywhere you want, and you can finally appreciate the kind of subtle details that are actually all around, but you will never see in reality because you will be stuck to the ground.
Museums using novel technologies to attract more visitors is nothing new, but 3D visualizations are now enabling them to display exhibits that otherwise may have been lost in a basement somewhere. This is London's Science Museum's shipping exhibit. It closed its doors last year, but it's now been given a new lease of life on a virtual shelf on the museum's website.
Over 5 nights in 2012, before the gallery closed, 275 laser scans were made and 2 billion precisely measured points were preserved by these lasers, which could be turned into essentially a point cloud of this historic exhibit which had been here for 50 years.
London's Petrie Museum was an early adopter of 3D scanning technology. It started scanning its collection of Egyptian artefacts more than 6 years ago. Scans were then used to create these apps so that visitors to the museum could do a bit more than look at a glass display. They can have a virtual play as well. But it's not just about engaging visitors. 3D is quickly becoming an important tool in archaeological research too. These little figures, called shabtis, are commonly found in ancient Egyptian tombs, servants for the deceased in the afterlife. Petrie Museum in London has long had them in their collection, but what wasn't possible to tell till now was whether the figures were individually crafted or mass-produced.
What 3D scanning allowed us to do was to look at the object beneath the design, and that's where we see this evidence for mould usage and also potentially mass production of these shabtis, which is very important from a research point of view, because whereas with the design you may think that you have maybe a shabti that was made entirely by one person, an artisan if you will, if you've got mass production of a typical shabti body, you almost have maybe a production line industry within ancient Egypt that could help develop our notion of Egyptian economy.
3D scanning also means that these fragile relics can be multiplied using 3D printing. Many collections of archaeological finds are scattered in different museums around the world. Now, uniting these collections is as simple as pressing print.
Other museums could do the same thing eventually, and you could see the whole find together again for the first time, and that would give you a unique insight into what that location was about, what that dig was about, who lived in that tomb. So that's really exciting, and having a digital replica that you can print almost instantly on a 3D printer then gives you that opportunity to bring masses of objects together and you can see them again.
And should an artefact become damaged, 3D printing can be deployed to create precise replacements. These are 3D scans of the lion sculptures at Blenheim Palace, birthplace of Winston Churchill. These 3D measurements could be now fed into a stone cutting machine, a new, near-identical lions hewn robotically. Back in Pisa, Jonathan Roberts and Zebedee have moved on to the adjacent Camposanto Monumentale, a medieval mausoleum badly damaged in Allied bombing raids during the Second World War. Of course, science is no stranger to Pisa. This is the birthplace of Galileo. You can't help thinking he'd have approved of the 3D laser scanners walking about his old hometown and helping to preserve its wonders.
Neil Bowdler there. And this is an exact 3D print of a lion from Blenheim Palace, which was made using the data gathered in Neil's report. Pretty cool, isn't it? Now, if you don't happen to have a stately home or a 3D laser scanner to hand, don't worry. There are consumer versions of the same technology that you can play with. Come this way. All you need is a smartphone with a decent camera and a decent view of the room that you would like to scan. This app is called Home Styler, and it works out the perspective of the room in the image and then allows you to drop furniture in to see how the place would look with a bit of a rejig. Minimalism? Who needs it? The company behind the app has solid 3D credentials. It also makes industry-grade software like Maya and AutoCAD. And although Home Styler is extremely simplistic, its other free service, 123D Catch, allows you to really and accurately scan that room. Stand in the middle and take about 70 photos of the interior and then upload them to the website. Quite breathtakingly, these photos will then be stitched together and the room's geometry calculated remotely, after which you can explore and manipulate the space. And I say breathtakingly because this is a lot of number crunching, more than the average personal computer can handle.
The browser is the access point to an infinite amount of computing power sitting in the cloud, which are essentially remote computers with very significant amounts of processing power. So as long as you have a desktop or a mobile device that can run a browser, you can manipulate the data, but using the power of these external sources, of remote sources in the cloud, but physical computers elsewhere.
And coolest of all, Instead of capturing the inside of a room, you can capture the outside of an object. Take between 20 and 70 photos from different heights, different angles, a few close-ups of any areas of special detail, and once uploaded, they'll be stitched together, geometry calculated, and the background removed automatically. Now, it can take a while for those cloud-based supercomputers to do their stuff, but once they're done, you'll get an email, and the results can then be viewed online as a fully rendered 3D model for you to explore or even 3D print at your leisure. And it is that kind of stuff that makes working on this show so cool. Plenty more still to come. First up, this week's tech news. Antivirus company McAfee has compiled a new list of the top 10 most dangerous celebrities to search for online. This year, Phil Collins' daughter Lily is number 1. If you search for her, there's a 14.5% chance of landing on a page that's tested positive for malware. Second up is singer Avril Lavigne at 12.7%, and third, Sandra Bullock at 10.8%. The only man on the list isn't me, it's Mad Men's John Hamm at 10%. YouTube is adding offline viewing of its video content for mobile devices. Up until now, downloading clips has been a breach of the site's terms of service. It's expected, though, that from November, users will be able to download videos to devices such as mobile phones and tablets and watch them without an internet connection. YouTube has said it will release details about how long downloaded clips will be available for closer to the feature's launch. After a lot of speculation about BlackBerry's future, or lack of it, it's just launched its biggest handset yet with the Z30 smartphone. With a large 5-inch screen, stereo speakers and a quad-core Snapdragon CPU, it certainly sports high-end specs. But in the same week that it's just announced plans to lay off 40% of its workforce, the question is it too little, too late for the Canadian mobile manufacturer? And finally, Georgia Tech has demonstrated its own must-have garment for next season, a prototype wearable vest with sensors for working dogs. Dubbed the FIDO project, that's facilitating interactions for dogs with occupations, the vest has toggles which respond to tugging, biting or waving by its canine wearer. The aim is for working dogs like Blitz here to choose which sensor is activated. The choice triggers a computerized audio message which then plays to its handler or owner. I imagine the walkie's sensor might wear out first. Few video games have achieved the success or the notoriety of the Grand Theft Auto series. There have been 4 so far, and in each one the player assumes the role of a nefarious character who's up to no good, committing crimes including Grand Theft Auto. Now, these actions are often counterpointed by the series' wry sense of humour and involved satirical storytelling. But it's something that's earned its success and controversy in pretty much equal measure. So is it just that some people don't get the joke? Well, as Grand Theft Auto 5 launches, Mark Cieslak has been to the game's fictional home, Los Santos, to find out.
A lot was riding on the success of this job, but if they pulled it off, this would be the score of a lifetime. More cash than anybody involved had ever dreamed of, and all it had to do was live up to the expectations of the gaming public.
Expectations which are understandably high for one of the biggest titles in gaming. It's rumoured to have cost a staggering £170 million to make and market Grand Theft Auto 5, which would make it the most expensive video game ever produced. So, no pressure to perform then.
It's an industrial area, right? So I'm thinking vehicles. Trash truck to block, tow truck to sack.
Video game stores across the globe opened at midnight on the game's launch day, helping fuel the hype surrounding the title. And it seems the game's developers and publishers' gamble has paid off, with Grand Theft Auto 5 generating £495 million in its first day on sale.
GTA 5 won't just be the biggest game of the year, it may be one of the biggest games of all time. There's not been a GTA game for 5 years, so there's been a long wait since GTA 4. And the expectation levels around this and the level of investment that Rockstar put into it suggests it's going to be a truly epic experience.
The series has come a long way from its first iteration in 1997. Back then, a top-down 2D title. Now, a 3D open-world extravaganza. Grand Theft Auto 5, or GTA 5 as it's known to console and computer gaming cognoscenti, is set in the fictional city of Los Santos, a stunningly detailed virtual version of Los Angeles, created by the crew at its developers Rockstar Games.
So what we doing here? We're working, amigo.
The player can choose to be and swap between at will one of 3 characters: an ex-armed robber, a young aspiring gangster, and a dangerous thug during the course of the game's story mode.
How have you been?
Oh, simply wonderful. And you?
Somewhere stuck between joyful and peachy.
With a title like Grand Theft Auto, as you'd expect, lots of the missions involve armed larceny. But this game is a lot more than the sum of its Hollywood heist movie-inspired parts.
Let's go!
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your moment! Please don't make me ruin all the great work your plastic surgeons have been doing.
The world of Los Santos is a sprawling and gigantic environment that counterpoints city streets with mountains and wilderness, and a beach and boardwalk thrown in for good measure. The player can indulge in sports, extreme or otherwise, watch TV shows, customize cars, acquire apparel, and even visit an in-game therapist.
I think you need a new therapist.
It's the sheer level of detail in this world which makes it a compelling place to visit. The player's constantly discovering new things to do and see. In fact, when I was playing, I quite often felt like a computerized tourist, soaking up the many and varied virtual vistas that Los Santos has to offer. Lush landscapes aside, a large part of the game's story mode does involve action, which is adult in its nature. One scene, which we can't show, involves torture. It's content like this which has, in the past, landed the series in hot water, with everybody from newspapers to politicians.
Some video games are designed for children, but other video games are definitely designed for adults. If GTA 5 was a movie, it would be a Martin Scorsese movie. You know, violent and artistic in equal measure. And it's definitely a game that pushes limits. And that's why people who check the limits, PEGI, have decided to give it an 18 rating. And retailers can get arrested for selling it to children, and parents shouldn't let children play it.
Strictly over 18's adult entertainment then.
An escape perhaps from the humdrum of everyday existence, performing much the same role as action movies. A game which mirrored real life a little bit too closely might not have quite the same mass appeal.
GTA Office Edition. Acquire caffeine. Latte bonus. Complete spreadsheet. Boredom bonus. Spreadsheet complete.
Mark Cieslak on Grand Theft Auto 5. And now on to more serene matters. When was the last time you gave out one of these? Well, believe it or not, the first examples of business or trade cards surfaced in London in the 17th century, probably at posh estates like this one. Well, it's amazing to think that all these years on, we're still using the same technology, although Kate Russell thinks that we shouldn't be, because would you believe she has an app for that? Here's Webscape.
In this age of digital everything, the traditional business card is fast becoming irrelevant. Camcard is a great example of how storing and sharing contact details has been brought up to date using smartphone technology. The basic app lets you capture card details with optical character recognition so it can easily be indexed on your phone. With the paid app, you get syncing to the cloud and the ability to access your contacts on any connected device.
I
One really nice feature is the ability to add your own augmented reality content to your business cards, like graphics, audio and video. It's a great way to showcase your work, as well as being a fantastic conversation starter. Now, this might be an impressive service with downloads for all of the leading smartphone platforms, but Camcard isn't the only company offering to digitise your business life. LinkedIn has made Card Munch, a free app that feeds the captured data straight into your social profile, so it's very convenient if you're a power user. It's only on Apple right now, but apparently Android and BlackBerry versions are in development. One last quick mention for Bump, which we looked at on Webscape back in 2010. Free on iPhone and Android, it lets you bump handsets with other users to share your contact details and other files via Bluetooth. With over 125 million downloads so far, the app has been so successful, it was announced this week that the company's been snapped up by Google. Cloud-based website builders let you throw together sites without any coding skills, but you can't generally get too creative with template customization. Not so with WebDo, a new service that offers as much flexibility as writing your own HTML, but you never need to look at the code, which means pretty much anyone can get stuck into the design process. This tool has clearly been designed by a designer. It's crisp and elegant with the option to tweak and customize your template as much as you like, all wrapped up in a drag and drop workspace that will feel very familiar to anyone who's worked with design software. The free account gives you a site on WebDo's domain with up to 15 pages and 1 GB of storage, with a range of premium accounts offering more pages, storage and your own domain. If all that digital creativity has fried your brain, why not unwind with a little coffeetivity? This quirky site plays the ambience of a friendly coffee shop to help you relax your mind. I don't know about you, but I find repetitive noises really help me concentrate too, especially if I'm sitting in a busy, noisy office. Just pop on some headphones and drown out the chit-chat with something that isn't going to distract me from my work. That's also the principle with naturesounds4.me, which lets you build your own 4-track mix from a selection of soothing nature sounds. You can even download the track you make to keep. Be warned though, this could actually have a negative effect on your productivity as you spend the entire day crafting new combinations.
What's new, pussycat?
Apple reportedly sold 19.5 million iPads in the second quarter of this year. With so many of the tablets on the market, you'd think someone would have designed a dedicated browser for the platform rather than just scaling up or down existing software. Well, that's exactly what Opera has done with last week's release of Coast, an elegant, secure and gesture-rich interface for browsing the web that fits perfectly on the iPad. Instead of bookmarks, the minimalist home screen loads up with familiar-looking icons, with swipe and tap navigation completely intuitive for the average tablet user.
Yes, I do. You and your pussycat knows.
Thank you, Kate. Those Webscape links are all up at our website if you missed them, along with tons of other material from the programme and your daily dose of tech news too. The address is bbc.co.uk/click. And if you'd like to get in touch with us about anything you've seen today, you can email us click@bbc.co.uk, or you can get hold of us on Twitter, Facebook and Google+ too. That's it from Sion House though. Thanks for watching and we'll see you next time.